Hello, LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, depending on where you are. Welcome to my live all about preparing for a feedback conversation. I'm going to share some specific shifts that you can make and some specific things to share if you're preparing for a feedback conversation. And some of this is taken from some different modules within our foundational leadership program. If you're not familiar with me or with Blue Rebel Works, we help to change behavior so that you can ultimately cultivate the kind of culture that you need. And a lot of that goes through our leadership development programs. Our mission is to improve people's lives by making work awesome. So you can see my little find a way to make work awesome today. If you are joining, I would love to hear what is making work awesome for you this week so far. We are right now Tuesday, the 17th of September, approaching fall officially in this hemisphere. And I'm curious, what is making work awesome for you this week? So if you're here, you can type in the chat what's something that's making work awesome for you this week. For me, something that's making work awesome this week is I am attending one of my favorite events of the year, which is called the Archangel Summit. And it is in Toronto later this week. And I am really looking forward to getting together with some other entrepreneurs who are all focused on making the world a better place and feeling kind of inspired and hearing what they're working on and learning from some experts there. So that is something that's making work awesome for me this week. If you are here, type in the chat something that's making work awesome for you this week. Now, today's topic is preparing for a feedback conversation. And based on my experience, it is a lot more about preparing my own mindset and my own thoughts before I give feedback, rather than thinking about the words I'm going to say and that sort of thing. Although I will touch a little bit on some of the types of things that you might think about saying in a feedback conversation. What I have found is, and as we work with leaders at all different levels, a lot of times when we feel like we have feedback for someone, and I'm talking specifically today about constructive feedback, because let me just start by saying you should find opportunities to provide positive feedback and reinforcing feedback as much as possible. Studies say that a ratio of anything from 4-1, and I've seen all the way up to 20-1, positive to constructive feedback. You need to have a ratio of between 4-1 to 20-1, depending on the study you read, of positive versus constructive feedback in order to be seen and perceived by your team as a positive and effective manager. So always look for the bright spots and the opportunities to provide positive feedback, recognition for things that people are doing well in a specific and meaningful way. Today, though, I am talking specifically about the kind of feedback that a lot of managers struggle with, which is the more constructive side of feedback. And what we often find is when we get to the point that we want to have a feedback conversation, we are often feeling a little frustrated. We might be blaming the person a little bit. We might have cataloged a list of the things they've done wrong, and we're noticing the things they do wrong more often. Our brain, of course, is always filtering out information. And if we're thinking that someone needs to improve, our brain is going to filter for the things they need to improve and not the things they're doing well. So we need to intentionally look for those positive things. So we are kind of in a mindset oftentimes that we call being below the line. And so I'm going to give you a quick intro to what that might look like. Let me just pop this up on the screen. Let's see if this works. And let me move myself over here. Okay. So you can see these above and below the line pieces. Let me also Just having some technical difficulties here. Trying to figure out how to take this off. Find a way to make work awesome today. Let me just hide that for a second so you can see the whole thing. Okay. So when we are below the line, and this is a natural place that we go when we feel at threat state, there's a lot of great work in a book called The Oz Principle when it comes to below the line and accountability. There's a lot of great work by the Conscious Leadership Group and their 15 Commitments of a Conscious Leader. And their above and below the line video. There's a lot of great work around this concept of the line. And when we're below the line, we are in a sort of a victim state. When it comes to a manager, we're often in something like a hero role where we're heroing in to fix things for people because we feel like we have to be the savior and the fixer of things. So you can see the little hero in the middle of my below the line state. But we are feeling like, oh, they aren't getting this right. I have to come in and do this again. It's their fault. They'll never learn. We're kind of a victim of the circumstances that we're in. Even if we feel like we're able to fix it, we're a little bit of a victim of what's going on at the time. And, you can see the hourglass there, a feeling of like not enough resources, not enough time, not enough talent, not enough of something that we need more of. There's a bit of a spiral down when we're below the line, kind of like the sinking feeling, like we have to like get out of this place, a lot of blame. And like I said, heroing in. When we're above the line, this is a more conscious way of being where we do have to consciously shift. And I'm going to share some specific shifts when it comes to feedback and what that might look like so you can prepare effectively for a feedback conversation. So we call these leader shifts. And so we need to shift some things if we're about to have a feedback conversation to help us have a more effective feedback conversation. And let us start with shifting our mindset. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. When we, there's a lot of research about fixed and growth mindset by Carol Dweck is one of the great researchers on this. And one of the things she talks about in her book, Mindset, is the effect of fixed mindset style feedback on people and they're developing a fixed mindset. So let me just share another another slide here if I can find it. Okay. So when we are below the line, we are approaching something from a fixed mindset. And so in a feedback sort of scenario, that might look like, I don't know why this keeps on changing my view. That might look like they'll never get it. They just aren't good at this. We are making sort of this overall assumption about their ability. Fixed mindset is that people have a fixed ability, a fixed potential. And so when we're approaching feedback with a fixed mindset, we might be thinking things like, they'll never get it. They aren't good at this. They don't have the potential. They need to be fixed in some way. Now, when you're coming in with that kind of mindset, that is going to affect the way you deliver your feedback. So instead, we need to approach our feedback conversations with a growth mindset. And what that would look like, let's see if I can do this easily. Oh, that would look like they haven't done this successfully yet, right? We're adding yet because we know that they have the potential. There's lots of potential. They need some support perhaps from us in order to grow, right? So the below the line is a fixed mindset. Above the line is a growth mindset. And when we're giving growth mindset feedback, we're not telling someone they're good or bad at something. We're noticing the specific behaviors and their effort that they're putting in, and knowing that if they put more effort in, they can definitely learn and grow. So we are shifting from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and we are going to share something when we do that. So for each of these, I have a shift, a from, and a to for your mindset and your way of thinking as you're preparing for feedback, and then also a share. So we are going to be sharing our intention for our conversation. Now, I actually recommend that you share your intention. Let me do this instead here. See if that's better. Okay. I actually recommend that you create a culture of feedback, which, by the way, this little QR code up here will take you to our micro course. It's free micro course all about creating a culture of feedback. It gives you one of our feedback tools that helps you make feedback part of your everyday. And I recommend that you share that as an intention when someone joins your team, that our intention here is to help you learn and grow and develop as you work with us. And that means feedback's going to happen regularly and often. And whenever I have feedback for you, especially when it's constructive, it is all about your growth, because I know you have potential. And I want to help you grow, and I'm here to help you grow. So as you're going into a feedback conversation, we need to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset and share our intention to help them grow, develop, learn, and realize their potential. So that might look like, hey, I have some feedback for you. Are you open to that? Because my intention here is to really help you develop and grow and really, reach to all the limits of your potential. So really sharing that intention when you shift your mindset. Okay, the next shift from below to above the line as you're preparing for a feedback conversation is about shifting your focus. Let me find this one. Shifting your focus. So when you're below the line, your focus is often on being right. You're often in judgment. You may be blaming someone. So you may be in this state of focused on my way is the right way to do things, and you're doing things the wrong way, blaming them, judging them for their way of working or whatever the feedback you have for them is. And you may be focusing on what they did wrong and really continuing to bring up what they did wrong in the past. In fact, when I posted I was doing this live, one of my connections on LinkedIn said, the last feedback conversation I had was my boss repeatedly asking me what I'd done wrong and why. And I do mean repeatedly. That was the comment that I received. And I thought that is so indicative of this below the line approach when we have feedback. So when you are coming into a feedback conversation focused on what someone did wrong and why your way is the right way and how they need to change, but keep on going to the past, then that is not going to be a positive and effective feedback conversation. So we need to shift our focus to, let me see if I can share this. We need to shift our focus to, I'm so sorry. I'm going to find this in a second. I'm having some technical difficulties today. We are going to shift our focus to the future. Here we go. Shift our focus to the future and what the opportunities are. We are going to shift from being right to being curious and being open to learning together and realizing that there's more than one right way to do things. We're also going to be shifting to having 100% accountability on both sides. So understanding that we have some accountability if they're doing things wrong, that, maybe there's something that we've done that could help them more effectively. So really thinking about what their 100% accountability is in the situation and what our 100% accountability is in the situation, instead of, this kind of concept of holding them accountable. We want everyone to take their own 100% accountability, including ourselves and them. So we need to shift into this curious, open, learning sort of mindset rather than below the line judgment, blame, and being right. And so when we're doing this, we want to share. Let's see if I can do this one. We want to share. Here we go. Accountability and acknowledgement. So that might sound like saying, I want to acknowledge all of the things that you've tried so far to do this. I want to also take my accountability of my role in this. Perhaps I didn't give you all of the training you needed. Perhaps I've waited too long to provide you with this feedback. So thinking about what are the things that you could acknowledge as your responsibility in the situation, and what can you acknowledge that they're doing well, and what are both of your accountabilities. So here's what I propose that I can do better for you. What do you want to do to improve this? So asking them about their accountability. So we're shifting from blame and past transgressions or whatever they've done wrong into the future opportunities, learning together. And when we're doing that, we are sharing that 100% accountability and acknowledging both of our roles and responsibilities. Okay, I'm just going to check in. If you are here with us today, let me know if you, what kinds of challenges you have in preparing for a feedback conversation. The next shift from below to above the line is all about shifting your, shifting your story, So when we have feedback for someone, we often have a whole story made up in our mind of all the things that are going on below the surface for them, a whole bunch of assumptions, a whole bunch of drama about them. And about this situation. So when we're below the line, as far as our story, what that can look like is, let's see. It can look like drama and assumption. All of the things we're making up in our minds, oh, they did this because of this, and they don't care about this, or all of the things that we are assuming about why they did what they did, or what they're thinking, what their motivations are, what their values might be, all of the things that we actually don't know. But our brains have a great way of adding drama to any story. We might be, when we're below the line, our story is that they are the antagonist. Our story is that they're going to have a negative reaction when we give them feedback. It's all of the things that when you're up at night at 2:00 in the morning ruminating about something, that our brain is adding to the drama of the story. When we come into feedback conversation with all of this drama and the story in our head, that is not going to be an effective feedback conversation. So we need to shift to above the line. And what that can look like is, yes, shifting from drama to reality. So shifting our story from all the drama we've added to what's the truth of the matter. And that means, what did we actually observe? Maybe we only saw, a report they created, or we only saw an email they sent, and we've added this whole story to it. So we need to shift from all the story in our head to what we actually observed. What's the actual situation? What did we see them say or do? What was the outcome? What did we actually observe? And then we can get curious about the stuff we were assuming before. Like, what were you thinking when you put together that report? Like, tell me about what went into that for you. And we want to shift our assumptions from them as an antagonist to them as an ally. That is going to help us enter this feedback conversation in a much more effective and open and meaningful way. So shift our story from below the line drama and assumption and all of the things we've been ruminating about. If we're preparing for feedback, we need to shift into the reality of the story, what we actually observed, and assuming that they're an ally and we can work on this together. And so when you are doing this, we also want to share. And what we want to share in this situation is, let me find my share screen. We want to share our observations and the impact of them. And I do have a slide that will show you this, I believe. Share. Here we go. We want to share what we actually observed and the impact of it. So we are shifting from that dramatic story in our head, all of the assumptions that we have, to the real story of what we actually observed. We're going to share what we noticed. So you might say something like, I noticed XYZ, what you really actually saw and heard. The impact was that I felt this way. So this is where some assumption might come in. Like, I wondered if you were motivated in this way, or the impact was the client felt this way, or I noticed that the team reacted in such a way when you said or did this. So we're sharing the actual observations and what the impact of that was when we're having the feedback conversation. And we're doing that from a place of reality, not all the drama that we wrote into our dramatic story in our head. Now, there's one final shift that I'm going to share, and that is the shift of our approach. So let's see. When we are below the line, we are often coming from an approach of telling someone what to do differently. We may be kind of like this dictator sort of approach, and it all comes from that sort of being right, being the hero, being the person who is the expert sort of approach. But instead, we actually want to develop them as the experts. So we don't want to be telling what to do all the time. We don't want to have a one-way conversation where we're dictating. We don't want to always be the one who's the expert. We want to develop them as that expert. We don't want to come in with that controlling approach, because no one wants to be told what to do or controlled. So we need to shift from this below the line approach to above the line, which looks like this. Let's see. Above the line. So our above the line is an open conversation. It's about asking what they think. We have a concept called FOQs. This is something that we cover quite a bit in our little mini micro course that you can get through that QR code. So focused open questions help you to have that open conversation in a feedback discussion and take a coaching approach rather than a controlling approach. So what we're going to share in this conversation is our FOQs, or our focused open questions. And what that can look like, let me pop that up. So we're shifting. If we want to have an effective feedback conversation, we need to shift from a below the line approach of command and control, and I'm the expert and you should do as I'm telling you, to a coaching approach to develop them as the expert. And we're open and curious and involving them in a two-way discussion about how to develop and improve. And we can do that through sharing focused open questions, FOQs. A focused open question is open enough that it is a what question with lots of possible answers that they can develop and generate, but it is focused enough that we are looking for what they think they are doing well and what they think they can improve. So it's not so open to say like, how are things going, or what do you think is happening here? It's more, what do you think you could do more effectively next time? Or what do you think you've done really well in this situation? So we're focusing them on providing some positive reinforcement or some constructive feedback on their own approach. And that way, they're going to be able to take more accountability. They're going to be able to develop their own expertise. And you're taking a more coaching approach so that learning and growth is a part of the culture on your team. So that is 4 shift and shares that will help you to have a more effective feedback conversation from an above the line perspective, which is open, focused on learning, and focused on growth, innovation, and cultivating that culture of continuous learning. I hope those shifts and shares help you. We will share them in a post in the next couple of days, but please do join us also in our free micro course. We have recently also added our commitment nudge engine to our micro course, which means you get a chance to test out and try our habit builder in effect. So you will set some feedback habits, you'll get nudges for several weeks after you finish the micro course, and you'll be able to rate and check in on your own progress of having more effective feedback conversations. So join us in the free micro course. It'll only take you about 10 or 15 minutes to complete, and then you'll have a few weeks of our actual commitment nudge engine kind of supporting you in your feedback practice. We will see you there, and I'll see you next time on my next live, which hopefully will have less technical challenges. Have a fabulous day. And